guys, so I'm here with a book haul. I have quite a stack of books to show you, so let's just get into it, shall we? The first book I am beyond excited for. It was in my most anticipated releases for the second half of 2017 video, which I'll link somewhere if you're interested. But this one was pretty much top of my list and I got it the day it came out. That is Pride, the unlikely story of the unsung heroes of the miners' strike. This is a non-fiction book of a real event that was also turned into a film of the same name. Did that make sense? So Pride came out a few years ago and it is tied for my top film of all time. It tells the story of LGSM, lesbian and gay men support the miners, who were a group that formed during the 1980s miners' strike to support the miners in their time of need. It's a beautiful story of solidarity and the film is wonderfully acted and just, you know, beautifully put together and really emotional and also really funny and all of the emotions essentially. But because it's based on a true story, I think that's what gives it its edge, and I am so excited to read the non-fiction account of events. This is told in interview style with the original participants of LGSM as well as the mining community that they donated money to. And yeah, that's pretty much everything there is to say about it, but I am so thrilled to have a copy and I cannot wait to read this. I would highly recommend the film to all of you, and I'm sure I'll be saying the same for the book. My dad was actually a miner during the time that all of this was happening, so it's a sort of period of recent history that's I've always felt very close to, if that makes sense. But next up is a book I actually picked up in the supermarket. I'm not sure if I've ever bought a book in the supermarket before, but I did see this, which is Into the Water by Paula Hawkins, reduced, and thought, you know, maybe this is the time to buy my first supermarket book. Paula Hawkins is of course the author of The Girl on the Train, which I haven't read. I wanted to read it, but after the film came out, pretty much the whole plot was spoiled for me, so I felt there wasn't much point in reading it because it's a mystery book and you don't want to know the plot before going in as well as the ending. But thankfully this is yet to be spoiled for me, and I thought I'm gonna get there before it's turned into a film and everybody starts talking about the plot basically. It again is a dark mystery book about a woman who is drowned. It's being put down as a suicide or an accident, but there might be more to it to that, and we hear the story being told from the perspective of different people in her life, including her sister and her daughter. I have started reading this when I've read about 20 pages and I'm enjoying the writing style so far, but obviously more feedback once I've read it. I was then sent what are now two of the most beautiful books in my library by the publishers, and the first one is Euripides the Bacchae, an illustrated edition, retold by Suresh Rao and Geeta Wolf, illustrated by Indra Pramit Roy. This was sent to me by the publishers, Tara Books, and I am just blown away with how beautiful this book is. Euripides Bacchae is an ancient Greek tragic play, and a really fantastic one at that, really interesting, and I'm so pleased to have an illustrated edition. It's so beautifully put together. I think it's been done on litho print, this one. That's the text, but then you get these beautiful huge illustrations. Here's a full page one of some maenads, I think, having a bit of a Bacchic revelry, and I just cannot wait to read this illustrated edition of the story. I'm going to do that really soon, but I'm so blown away by how beautiful this is, and I'm so grateful to Tara Books for sending it to me. They also sent me this graphic novel art book, which is Black, an Artist's Tribute. And this one is actually been entirely made on black recycled paper. It's been bound by hand and has been screen printed, so this part of me doesn't really want to touch and just wants to put it in a glass frame and not let anybody touch with their greasy fingers, because it is a work of art, not just a work of literature. And it has this beautiful illustrated design all the way through. Here's some more of the images there. It's beautifully constructed, it feels beautiful. And it tells the story of the artist Santosh Kumar Das and it's a bit of a memoir of the illustrator and author's discovery of himself as an artist. That is Santosh Kumar Das. and I just think this one is going to be a really beautiful reading and visual experience. But next up is another book that I picked up for myself, and that is another book by Tom Holt. This is You Don't Have to Be Evil to Work Here, But It Helps. This is the fourth in the J.W. Wells series by Tom Holt, which I've read the previous three in, and I believe this one is set at the same company as the previous three, J.W. Wells, but follows a new main character from the previous three. So I'm intrigued to see how that comes to be. I'm excited to come back to that same world with a new perspective. I think that's going to pick it back up and give it a new lease of life, because I think the company itself is a really fascinating place. It's a comic fantasy series, so there's lots of goblins and magic and wizards and things like that in here. Well, set in sort of business centre of London, and they're such good fun, so I'm excited to have the fourth one. I then have two books that I picked up in Blackwell's, which were on 3 for 2. I picked up a third book, but it was actually for my mum, and that is No by Naomi Klein, which I do actually have on my Kindle, and I think I mentioned in my What's on my Kindle video. But the two I picked up for myself specifically were firstly In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. This is a true crime book which reconstructs a murder that took place in the 1950s America of a farmer and his family. I think this is a bit of a classic amongst the true crime genre. Truman Capote is of course a very famous author, and the bookseller told me that there's a documentary film version of this, which I didn't know, so I'll be really intrigued to watch that after I've read it, or vice versa, and compare the two. Next in 3 for 2 I picked up The Doll's Alphabet by Camilla Grudova, and this is a Fitzcarraldo edition, which are just the most beautiful books. I think all of their non-fiction is white and all of their fiction is blue, and they're all completely plain like this, nicely put together with French flaps. This is the first one I've actually picked up for myself, and I'm really excited to have it. This one is a short story collection which on the back compares itself to Angela Carter and Margaret Atwood, and that was pretty much all the selling I needed to pick it up. I imagine these are going to be quite literary, magical realism type short stories, but we will have to see. I then have a book that was sent to me by the publishers, and they are Anderson Press, who sent me a copy of Troublemakers by Catherine Barter. This book is a young adult book, a contemporary young adult book, which follows our protagonist in a London that is changing, which is going through political upheaval and civil unrest due to everything that's going on around them and the way that people are being treated, and one young girl's experience of all of this whilst trying to better learn and get to know her now deceased mother, who was a political activist, and she wants to feel a little bit closer to her mother and learn about her past. I really wanted a copy of this because I'm on the lookout for more political YA and YA with political themes, just because I think it's important to represent young adults who are also engaged with things that aren't necessarily directly affecting them in the way that perhaps relationships do, or discovering oneself, or family drama, or school, those kind of things which feel very direct, but more the way the outside world can affect young people, as well as young people's engagement with the outside world and the political world, because I think young adults are very politically engaged and care about what's going on around them. So I wanted to read more young adult books like that, so I'm really excited to have a copy of this. And on that theme, I was also recommended by some people on Twitter Here I Stand, which is an anthology of writing for young adults with political themes, themes of social issues and othering and current world issues and problems, those kind of things. It's got poetry, it's got bits of graphic novel in there, it's got short stories, all of those good things, and I'm absolutely appalled I didn't actually know this one existed already, although I probably had seen it and I just completely forgotten about it, because one of the contributions in here is actually from a good family friend. But I'm really excited to have this one. I think it's such a brilliant concept, and it was also produced in collaboration with Amnesty International, so the profits go to Amnesty International, and I just think great thing to come about. It has contributors like Neil Gaiman, Matt Haig, Frances Harding, Jackie Kay, all big names and many more. And lastly, for physical books, I have a copy of The Sound of Waves by Yukio Mishima, and this is a Japanese novel set in a remote fishing village in Japan. And the reason I picked this one up is because somebody actually commented on a video recommending it to me, as apparently it was inspired by Longus's Daphnis and Chloe, which is my favourite piece of ancient literature of all time. It's an ancient Greek novel from around the 2nd century AD. It's a witty romance, essentially, following a shepherdess and a goat herd who develop feelings for one another but have no idea how to go about exploring those feelings, and it's basically them trying to figure out how to have sex. So I am incredibly intrigued to read a book inspired in any way by that story, especially one that I imagine will bring to life a new culture for me in Japanese culture. And I'm so grateful for that recommendation, so thank you. Lastly, I thought I'd do something that I don't usually do, but that is mention books that I have picked up on my Kindle recently, either through receiving review copies of NetGalley or purchasing for myself. I don't know if this is something you'd like me to do regularly, but I thought I'd give it a shot. That way you know what books I recently acquired on my Kindle alongside physical books and what I might be reading soon. But I bought myself 3 books on my Kindle, 2 of which I've already read and 1 I'm currently reading. I do tend to immediately start reading books I buy on my Kindle because I buy them because I want to read them in that moment. It's usually late at night because I've taken a fancy to them. But the first one is Cruel Summer by Juno Dawson. This is a young adult thriller, crime mystery novel. All the characters are about a year out of high school or secondary school, and they haven't seen each other essentially since school ended, when one of their group of friends committed suicide apparently, and they've come back together this summer after their first year away from school to go on holiday to a Spanish villa, and another death takes place, but this time it is for sure a murder. And it essentially follows them over the next few days in this villa, figuring out who the murderer is, as well as what happened to their friend a year ago. I also bought Such Small Hands by Andres Barba, which is a Spanish novella that has been translated into English, and it's a horror, suspense, creepy little story. I very much did feel like a little story. I wrote a brief review of this one on Goodreads and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really interesting but a little bit insubstantial, if that makes sense. It follows a 7-year-old girl whose parents have died in a car crash, and she is sent to a boarding school come orphanage to live with a group of other girls around her age, and it's about fitting in, it's about loneliness, it's about love and hate, and a lot of the complex feelings that are going on in young girls' heads in that time, and the suspicion and distrust of new people in that environment. There's honestly so much packed into this creepy little story that's why it felt like it needed to be longer. Basically what happens in reaction to all of these emotions and feelings that are going on is that a creepy little game begins amongst the girls. And lastly, for books I bought on my Kindle, is One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus, and this is another young adult thriller novel. Just so in the mood for them at the moment, and I do find if I'm enjoying a genre I will binge, and I am binging at the moment, and this is quite a new one that a lot of people have been recommending. It's a combination essentially of Gossip Girl, The Breakfast Club and Scream is basically what I think it is. A group of teenagers in an American high school have detention, one of them dies. Who killed him? The boy in question had a website which essentially circulated news and gossip about the other students, a bit like Gossip Girl. So the premise is that presumably he was killed because of something he was going to post on this website, but I'm only about 10% of the way in, so I can't comment too much on how it progresses, but we will see. And then there are 3 ebooks that I acquired from NetGalley, which is a review website where you can request ebooks to review. One of them I've already read. I talked a little bit about it in my currently reading video, and you'll hear my full thoughts in my wrap up, but that is There's Someone Inside Your House by Stephanie Perkins, another young adult thriller horror book. Can't help it, told you I'm binging. This one is basically Scream with a romance. It was enjoyable but a little bit tropey, and had a big focus on the romance plotline. So not for everybody, but something I'm sure lots of people will enjoy, and I definitely sped through and was quite happy to read. Then there's Moonrise by Sarah Crossan, which is a young adult book entirely told in verse. I read Sarah Crossan's other book in this style, which was called One, and again was told entirely in verse. This story follows a young boy whose brother is on death row, and it's about his relationship with his brother and the rest of his family and whether his brother actually did it. And I've read a little bit of this one at the beginning, and again it's really beautifully written. I think it's such a wonderful concept to bring the verse writing style to the young adult genre, and I really admire and respect Sarah Crossan for doing that, and I think she does it really, really well, so I know I'm probably going to really enjoy this one like I did with One. And lastly is The Lying Game by Ruth Ware, which is an adult thriller novel. I've never read anything by Ruth Ware, but she seems to be quite a popular author in this genre, and when I saw it on NetGalley I thought, I'm gonna give this one a shot. I believe it's about a group of 4 friends who are now adults that used to play a game in school together called The Lying Game, and something from their past has arisen. Dark things happen, thrillers, I don't really know. I don't really know. I'm going on Ruth Ware's reputation and my current penchant for thrillers with this one. Do let me know if you've read any Ruth Ware and think I will like her. But those are all the books I had to mention in this video, quite a few when you take into account the Kindle ones, so apologies if this has been quite a long video. Hopefully you still enjoyed it. If you have any thoughts on any of the books I've mentioned in this video, or would love to recommend me any thrillers, then please do. As you can tell, I'm really enjoying them at the moment. But until next time guys, happy reading, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye guys!